Illuminati philosopher, and these are my thoughts. Now, I want you to use your critical thinking skills. So we know that slaves are property. We've been told for so long slaves are property. The slave owners can do whatever they want with their slaves, right? Now, I'm going to tell you why the slave owners were pissed off with the abolitionists, because the abolitionists were spreading a lot of propaganda about their institution. Like, imagine that you're a business owner, or like I'm a business owner, and I have a restaurant, and I have to clean the toaster oven every morning. Every morning I have to clean the toaster oven, and one morning I get pissed off and I start bashing in the toaster oven. It's my property, I can do whatever I want. But now I have to buy a toaster oven, and those toaster ovens are expensive. I had a perfectly fine toaster oven, and just because I got mad, I start bashing in the toaster oven. But you know what else is interesting is that there's other things in my property that I use my bat with. I either damage it or destroy it. Well, I'm an idiot. I'm going to constantly damage and destroy my property. I won't have a business. But apparently this is what the slave owners, the vast majority of slave owners, were doing for decades upon decades. This is like a good business model, apparently. And they got a lot of people believing that this is what slave owners did. And not only that the slave owners are idiots, constantly damaging and destroying their property, they're also making it seem that black people, millions upon millions of black people, are constantly being raped. Their families are constantly taken away from them. They're constantly getting beat. They're not getting paid for their work. And they're being underfed, and they didn't burn down the entire South. It doesn't make any sense. It's like a dystopian society, a Black Mirror episode or a Twilight Zone episode. It doesn't make any sense. If you use your common sense, this doesn't make any sense. Black people would have went ballistic. Anybody would have went ballistic. It's not only black people, any people would have went ballistic if they were treated that way for decades upon decades. There's no way. If this was happening to a minority, yes, they're going to do something, and that's what happened in the South. There were people who ran away or they rebelled. You hear periods of this, but if this was happening to millions upon millions of black people every day for years, for decades on end, there's no way that system could function. But yet somehow they want us to believe that this is what happened to black people, and that slave owners were such idiots that they were doing this on a regular basis. It doesn't make any sense. There's no basis in fact. Okay, and that's why the slave owners were pissed off with the abolitionists, because they were spreading nonsense. And even Northerners were pissed off with the abolitionists because they knew that they were spreading nonsense. But they won the war. They are the ones that created the war. They won the war, and the narrative of slavery persists, where people think that black people were so pathetic, they were so docile, feeble-minded, and doltish that for decades upon decades, they've been raped, beaten, their families constantly taken away from them, and they didn't get paid, they were underfed, and they didn't pretty much do anything about it. We had to wait for white people to come to save us. That is the most ridiculous nonsense I've ever heard.